She once held my hand in the rain and said, "I don't need a rich man, just an honest one." So I did something no one expected. I pretended to be broke. I moved into a cheap apartment, drove a beat-up car, ate instant noodles, and waited to see if her love was as real as her words. 3 months later, she left me. No tears, no guilt, just walked away, right into the arms of a guy wearing a Rolex, laughing like she'd never known me. But 1 year later, she froze in place, surrounded by thousands, as I stepped onto the stage. And the truth finally hit her like a punch to the chest. Don't look away, because sometimes choosing the wrong person comes with a lifetime of regret. Welcome to Reddit Stories, where truth always comes with a twist. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a story that stops you in your tracks. I met Linda on a rainy Sunday morning at a local charity event for underprivileged kids. It wasn't a flashy, well-advertised fundraiser, just a simple gathering at a community center downtown, with folding tables, homemade signs, and volunteers who genuinely wanted to help. I went alone. No assistants, no fancy suits, no name tags that said CEO, just me in a gray hoodie, jeans, and sneakers I hadn't worn in years. It had been a while since I did anything like this without a camera, crew, or business agenda. I needed something real, something that reminded me why I started from the beginning. And there she was. Linda stood in the middle of the room, holding a donation box, wearing a plain white t-shirt and a pair of jeans. No makeup, hair tied back. But she had this energy about her, this glow that made you feel like everything around her was a little lighter, a little warmer. We first spoke when we both ducked under the same awning to escape the drizzle outside. She looked over and smiled. Guess we picked the wrong day to save the world, huh? I laughed. Could be worse. At least I get to stand next to the prettiest volunteer here. She blushed, gave me a side eye, and shook her head. Wow, do all volunteers come with smooth pickup lines now? That was it. That was the moment. I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Something honest. We talked for about 15 minutes. She told me she worked in logistics at a mid-sized import-export firm. She'd been volunteering since college. Said it helped her stay grounded. I told her I did freelance marketing and was trying to figure things out. Technically not a lie. I mean, I was figuring something out, just not the way she thought. We exchanged numbers. No pressure, just genuine interest. Over the next few weeks, we hung out more. Coffee, casual walks through the park, takeout dinners on my old apartment balcony. Nothing extravagant. I made sure of that. And Linda, she never once complained. She actually said something that stuck with me. I don't care about what a guy does for a living. Really, I just want someone who's kind. Stable is nice, but kindness? That's non-negotiable. I smiled at the time, but inside, I felt wary. I'd heard that before. From other women. Women who'd ghosted me after Googling my name. Women who said I was too serious when I tried living simply. Who called me boring the moment they realized I wasn't flashing money around. But I wanted to believe Linda was different. I needed to believe that. So I made a choice. I wouldn't tell her about the company I built from scratch or the 2-story penthouse I own in downtown Chicago. I wouldn't let her see the car collection or the team of employees who called me sir. I wanted to see who she really was, who she'd be if I had nothing. I moved out of my penthouse, rented a tiny studio in a rougher part of town, the kind of place with flickering hallway lights and laundry machines that never worked. I left my Porsche in storage and bought a 2002 Toyota Corolla off Craigslist for $1,500. No leather seats, no Bluetooth, just 4 wheels and a struggling engine. I dug through old boxes and found my college wardrobe, wore faded hoodies, and cheap sneakers. I lived on frozen pizza and ramen. And every time I looked in the mirror, I reminded myself, this is who you need to be. For now. Linda never asked questions. She met me at my new apartment and looked around curiously, but never said anything judgmental. It's cozy, she said, forcing a smile. I nodded. Yeah, not much, but it's mine. She didn't pry. and that gave me hope. For a while, things were good. She came over with grocery bags, cooked spaghetti, made jokes about my crooked kitchen shelves. We watched old movies on my secondhand TV and talked late into the night about life and dreams. But slowly, I began to see the cracks. It started small. One afternoon, I picked her up from work. I was wearing an old jacket, driving the Corolla with the peeling paint and busted air conditioning. As she slid into the passenger seat, I noticed her forcing a smile, but also adjusting her posture, glancing quickly to see if any co-workers were watching. Then came the conversations. Do you ever think about going back to school? Maybe get a better job? You're really smart. I bet you could do something bigger if you tried. I always deflected, shrugged, gave vague answers. And then came her friends. We went out to dinner once with her co-workers, one of those places where even a burger cost $18. I offered to split the bill, but Linda quietly paid for me, smiling awkwardly. Later that night, she said, I don't mind paying. I don't want them to think you're not trying. I didn't respond, because the truth was, I was trying to understand if her love had limits, trying to see how far I love you for who you are really went. The final push came one evening when she invited me to her parents' house for dinner. They lived in the suburbs, in a 2-story home with manicured hedges and an American flag waving proudly on the porch. Her mom was polite, but sharp. Her dad barely spoke. Halfway through dinner, her mom asked me, So what exactly do you do again? I gave her the same line. Freelance marketing. Mostly online stuff. She nodded slowly, took a sip of wine. Any plans to grow that into something more stable? Eventually? I smiled. I'm working on it. Taking things one step at a time. She didn't look impressed. When dessert came around, Linda's younger brother asked what kind of car I drove. I told him. He laughed. Dude, my high school friend drives a better car than that. Linda shot him a look, but didn't say anything. She didn't defend me. That night, on the drive home, she was quiet. I asked if everything was okay. Yeah, she said. They're just old-fashioned. But I knew what was coming. A week later, she texted me. Hey, can we talk? We met at the park bench where we'd had our first real conversation. She looked nervous. I already knew. You're a good guy, she said. But I think we're just in different places in life. I asked, would you feel the same if I had a better apartment, a better car, a real job? She hesitated, and that silence told me everything. I'm sorry, she whispered. I need stability. I thought I could handle it, but I guess I can't. I nodded, got up, walked away. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just left. That night, I sat in my penthouse. Yes, I went back, looking out over the skyline I'd worked years to reach. I thought about how easy it had been for her to say, I love you for who you are, but how hard it was to stay when who I was didn't look like success. And in that moment, I realized I didn't need someone who loved the version of me with nothing. I needed someone who loved me, with or without the title, with or without the car, with or without the test. Linda wasn't that person, but maybe someday someone would be. After Linda broke things off, I gave myself space. No calls, no texts, no social media stalking. I stayed quiet. But even in that silence, I couldn't stop wondering, had it all been fake? The laughs, the nights on the couch, her spaghetti recipe that never quite worked out. Had all of that meant nothing the second she realized I was enough? Then, 2 weeks later, I got a text. Hey, can we meet? Just to talk. No pressure. I stared at it for a long time. Against my better judgment, I said yes. We met at a little diner off the highway. One of those places with peeling vinyl booths and bottomless coffee refills. I got there early, sat in a corner, watched the rain beat on the window. When she walked in, she looked different, lighter somehow, like someone who had made a hard choice and felt free from it. We talked. She told me things have been weird since we stopped seeing each other. She missed our conversations. Missed me. But she was also trying to be realistic about life. I nodded. I didn't push. Then she said something that caught me off guard. My mom keeps asking about you. I didn't tell her we broke up yet. I raised an eyebrow. Why? She hesitated. I think she liked you in her own way. She just wanted you to be more settled. I nearly laughed. That same woman who side-eyed my jacket and asked about my 5-year plan liked me, but I didn't say anything. I just listened. Look, Linda said finally, I don't want to lose you entirely. Maybe we can take it slow again, as friends. There it was, the soft landing, the emotional backup plan. I told her I needed time to think. She nodded, and just like that, she was gone again. A week later, I got an unexpected invitation from her family. They were hosting a birthday dinner for her dad, and Linda wanted me to come. She said it would mean a lot. At first, I thought, no way. I'd already played the role of underwhelming boyfriend. I didn't want an encore, but something in me was curious. I wanted to see how they'd act now that Linda had moved on, see if they'd be honest this time. So I went. The dinner was at their home in the suburbs again. The same white panel house with American flags, flower beds, and lawn gnomes that probably hadn't moved in years. Inside, it was like a Norman Rockwell painting, warm lighting, old country music playing in the background, the smell of roasted chicken and mashed potatoes. Very all-American, very curated. Her parents greeted me like I'd never left. Smiles, handshakes, small talk. Her mom even complimented my shirt. You clean up nice, she said. I want to say, this shirt cost $10 at Walmart, but I smiled and thanked her. Dinner was fine until the wine kicked in. That's when the real question started. So, what exactly do you do again? Do you have any long-term financial goals? What are your thoughts on home ownership? Linda looked increasingly uncomfortable, but she didn't stop them. She didn't jump in. She just let it happen. Her brother, Ryan, smirked at me across the table and said, You know Linda's last boyfriend was in med school, right? Everyone chuckled. I didn't. I sat there, eating my overcooked chicken, and realized something. They didn't want me to succeed. They wanted their version of me to succeed. A guy who played the game their way, checked the boxes, fit the mold. And I never would. After dessert, I thanked them and said I had to head out. Linda walked me to my car, the Corolla. She didn't say anything at first, just stood there fidgeting with her sleeve. Then she said, Sorry about tonight. I didn't expect him to be like that. I looked at her. Yes, you did. She opened her mouth, closed it, then nodded slowly. Maybe I did. Then why invite me? I asked. She hesitated. I guess part of me hoped it would be different, that maybe if they saw what I saw in you. But did you see it? I asked, softer now. She didn't answer. That was the second time I walked away. But this time, it wasn't her decision. It was mine, because I realized it's one thing to be rejected by someone for what you lack, but it's another thing entirely to be rejected for what you refuse to pretend to be. And I wasn't going to pretend. Not for her. Not for anyone. After that dinner, I cut all ties with Linda. No messages. No late-night drives to familiar places. No more hoping she'd come around. I'd given her the benefit of the doubt. Twice. That was 2 times too many. I threw myself back into work. Real work. Not the freelance marketing cover I'd been living under, but actual late nights with my executive team, client meetings with 7-figure proposals, investment negotiations, and expansion plans. I was done playing small. If I couldn't find love pretending to be broke, then I'd damn well build a life I wanted at full volume. For a while, I forgot about her, until 3 months later, when I saw her again. It was at a conference, a mid-level business expo at a downtown hotel. My company was one of the main sponsors, but I wasn't supposed to be there. I usually sent my team. But that day, something told me to show up. I walked into the ballroom in a tailored navy suit, just in time to hear a familiar laugh. There she was, Linda, laughing beside a tall, sharp-dressed man. Slick hair, Rolex, tan loafers. Her new boyfriend. She hadn't changed much. Still graceful. Still pretty. But her smile? It was different. Calculated. I kept my distance. Listened in for a few seconds. Enough to hear her say, "He's not like my ex. This one actually has a future." I didn't flinch. I just smiled. What Linda didn't know was that this very conference had a panel, and I was the closing speaker, not a sponsor, not an attendee. The keynote. That night, I stepped onto the stage after hours of product demos and investor pitches. The lights dimmed, the spotlight hit, and the crowd hushed. I looked across the room and saw her, front row, frozen. I spoke about building something from nothing, about risking everything for a dream, about how people will underestimate you, doubt you, even leave you, because they don't see what you're building beneath the surface. And then I said this: sometimes, to find what's real, you have to strip away everything that looks successful until all that's left is character. And if people walk away from you in that season, let them, because when you rise, they won't be able to look you in the eye. The room went silent, then erupted into applause. But I wasn't looking at the crowd. I was looking at her. She didn't clap. She didn't blink. She just stared, like she was trying to piece together a puzzle she didn't even know she was holding. After the event, I slipped out the side door before the photo ops. I wasn't there for validation. I didn't need the spotlight. I just needed her to see it. And she did, because 2 days later, she called. "Hey, I saw you speak. I didn't realize." "No," I interrupted. "You didn't. I didn't mean what I said about you not having a future. I was just angry, confused. You were honest," I said. "You said what you meant." Silence. Then, "Is there any way we could maybe catch up? Just coffee?" I looked out the window of my office, 30th floor, downtown, skyline glowing, and thought about how far I'd come. "No, Linda," I said quietly. "We already caught up. You just didn't recognize it." It was a Tuesday morning, cold gray, nothing special. I was halfway through reviewing quarterly projections when my assistant buzzed in. "There's a woman at the front desk asking to see you." She says her name is Linda. I froze, not because I missed her, not because I was surprised, but because I knew people only show up unannounced when they've got nowhere else to go. I told my assistant to send her up. She stepped into my office slowly, as if she wasn't sure she had the right to be there. Her eyes scanned the room, the floor-to-ceiling windows, the polished wood desk, the skyline view behind me, and then they landed on me. I didn't stand. I didn't smile. I just said, "Linda." She looked different, tired, smaller somehow, like someone who had spent months trying to convince herself she'd made the right choices and failing. She sat down across from me, clasping her hands tightly in her lap. I know I shouldn't be here, but I didn't know who else to talk to. I waited. "You remember Nathan? The guy I started seeing after us?" I nodded once. "The Rolex guy, the charmer, the future. Turns out he's not exactly who I thought he was." She took a shaky breath. "He lied about everything. His job, his family, his past. He wasn't some up-and-coming financial consultant. He was job-hopping, in debt, and seeing 2 other women." I didn't flinch. "He used me," she continued. "And the worst part is, I let him, because he looked like what I thought I wanted." She looked up at me now, eyes glassy. "You didn't. You never tried to impress anyone. You were just you." And I walked away from that. From you. There it was. The truth. Not just about Nathan, but about her. About why she left. "I judged you," she whispered, "because you didn't look like success. But now I know. You were exactly who you said you were. The only honest one in the room." I finally leaned forward. "No, Linda, I wasn't honest either. I let you believe I was broke. I let you walk away because I needed to know if what you felt was real. And when you left, I got my answer." She bit her lip. "I messed up." I nodded. "You did. Can I make it right?" she asked. There was the apology, the invitation. the hope, but it was too late. Because here's the thing about trust. When it breaks quietly, it doesn't come back loudly. I stood up, walked to the window, looked out over the city I built a life in, alone, but on my own terms. You wanted a man with a future, I said softly. You just didn't stay long enough to realize I was already building one. She stood too, silent. I turned back to her. You weren't wrong to want more, but you were wrong to think I had nothing. And now, you want something from someone who no longer needs anything from you. Her shoulders dropped. She nodded. I get it. And with that, she left. No more promises. No more tears. Just silence and closure. Exactly 1 year to the day after Linda walked into my office, I saw her again. Different city, different state, different life. I had flown to San Diego for a tech summit. My company was expanding fast, coastal offices, international contracts, a whole new division being launched. I was scheduled to speak on the second day, but that morning, I decided to attend a few panels as a guest. Just a guy in a blazer and jeans, blending into the crowd. And then I saw her, Linda, standing by the coffee booth, chatting with someone, her hair a little shorter now. Same eyes, though, same cautious smile. She hadn't seen me yet. I didn't intend to go over, but fate, as always, had other plans. Because just as I turned to walk away, a soft voice behind me said, "Hey babe, they have almond milk. Want me to grab you a cup?" I smiled. She stepped up beside me, handed me the cup, and gave me that familiar look. The one that said, "I got you." Her name was Elena. We met 6 months after Linda and I last spoke. She was a junior UX designer on a project my company funded. Fierce mind, humble spirit, and the kind of quiet strength most people overlook. She never asked me what car I drove. She didn't care what title I had. When I told her about the fake apartment, the old car, the test I gave Linda, she didn't flinch. She just said, "You shouldn't have had to test someone to feel safe being yourself." And that's when I knew. Elena wasn't someone I needed to earn. She was someone who chose me for free. As I turned back toward the coffee booth, Linda saw me. Our eyes met. She blinked, then again, and then her smile faltered. Her gaze moved to Elena, the way Elena leaned into me, the way her hand lightly touched mine as we chatted. The ease, the warmth, not forced, not filtered, real. Linda took a step toward us, opened her mouth, then stopped. Elena followed my line of sight. "Someone you know?" she asked. I nodded softly. "Someone I used to be." She raised an eyebrow, curious. "You okay?" I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman who loved me without the resume, without the resume, without the stage. "Yeah," I said, "more than okay." We walked past Linda, without another word. Not because I wanted to hurt her, not because I held a grudge, but because closure doesn't always need a conversation. Sometimes it's just a moment when you realize the person who once walked away from your worst now has to watch someone else stand beside you at your best. Final thought. I once believed I had to hide who I was to find someone real. But the truth is, the right person doesn't care whether you're driving a Corolla or a Bentley. They'll ride with you either way, as long as the direction is honest. I never needed to test love. I just needed to wait for one that didn't need proving. And I found her.